Hey everyone, Dave here for Peace Camera. In this week's video, we're going to talk about the best photo editing softwares, both free and paid. So a few weeks ago, I did a video on whether you should shoot RAW versus shooting JPEG. If you haven't seen that, I'll put a link right up over here for you. And now, if you decide to shoot RAW, you're going to need some sort of photo editing software that can read those RAW files. You can manipulate them any way you want, and then you can export them out as JPEGs. So I wanted to go over a few of my personal recommendations for both free and paid for you to use. So let's go ahead and start with free. The first one being GIMP. GIMP is an open source, free download for both Mac and Windows. You can easily do it almost as much as Photoshop, and I shouldn't say easily because it can be quite hard to use. There is a steep learning curve, but if you wanted everything that you can do with Photoshop without having to pay for Photoshop, GIMP is a great option. Just note it's going to have a little bit of a steeper learning curve to use. Next is the Nix collection, and this used to be a paid software bundle. I think it was like $100, $200 or something like that to download the entire bundle. Then Google bought them, and they have since made it free. Unfortunately, they won't be offering any more support for this, but I heard somebody else is kind of taking that part over, and they are going to release another update later this year. Now, the Nix is a bundle, or you can download each option individually. There's some great softwares out there like Silver Effects. This is great for your black and white. Color Effects for your color photos. A bunch of other different ones like HDR, which is great if you do high dynamic range photography. So all different individual softwares that you could download and play with to manipulate your photos. It's not as powerful as, say, Photoshop or GIMP, but it still can be very useful. You can download standalones or add them in as a plugin to, say, Adobe Lightroom or Photoshop if you decide to go with that option. Speaking of Photoshop, now we could talk about Photoshop Express. This is a light version of Photoshop. It's free to download, and it's also a great option, but it's very limited on what it could do. It will only support RAW, JPEG, and PNG files. So you got to, if you're trying to do TIFFs or anything like that, Photoshop Express will not be able to handle that. And if you're an Apple user, you already have when you're running one of the latest versions of the Macintosh OS, then you already have the Photos app, which is another free app that you can use to manipulate your photos. Now let's talk about paid options. The first one I'm going to talk about is Capture One. This is from Phase One, if you ever heard of them. They are the medium format camera manufacturer. They make digital medium format cameras. Very expensive, but they have their own photo editing software called Capture One. Now it's $300 to buy it. It's a one-time fee, but you can download a 30-day trial, and I think this is the best option compared to the Adobe suite, which I'm going to get into in a minute, to allow you to go through and manipulate your photos. They're just not as good as the organization side as Adobe Lightroom is. Now, speaking of that, Adobe Lightroom and Adobe Photoshop, I think, are the best options to go for out there. It's what I've personally been using for years. Adobe used to be able to buy the software packages individually, and that was it. But now they've gone to a complete cloud-based subscription program, but they have offered a special program for photographers. They'll give you Lightroom and Photoshop for $9.99 a month. So I think it's a great deal, only $10 a month, and you get the full versions of Photoshop and Lightroom, and then you also get Lightroom Mobile, which means you can edit your RAW files on your phone or your tablet, and everything is synced in the cloud. So when you make a change on your phone, it'll automatically appear on your computer at home and with that change made. So again, option I use, I think is great. And you could also then take all those Nix software plugins that you download and make them as plugins in Lightroom and Photoshop. Another great thing about Adobe is how easily you can switch between both applications and go in between them. So say I am editing a photo in Lightroom, which I do 99% of my photo editing in, but I need to do some heavier blemish removals on this person's skin or something like that. I can send that file over to Photoshop, make my changes, I save it, and it immediately goes right back into Lightroom with the edited photo, so you have it in that nice catalog. Everything's nice and organized. You can also do all the Nix software collection I talked about before and make them as plugins. So if you want to and say take a photo that you made in Lightroom, and once you make a nice black and white effect, you can just right click on it, open it up in Silver Effects, do your edit, close out, and it'll go right back into Lightroom again. So it's a really great option to have, and I think for $10 a month, it's a no-brainer to get, and that's my personal recommendation for the paid. If not, then go with GIMP or Photoshop Express if you really want a little bit more power there. Now, there are plenty of other photo editing softwares out there, both free and paid, but these are the ones that I recommend and I have personally tried for myself and want to pass that recommendation on to you. So if you have any other questions about this, cameras, anything else, you know where to come find us. We're at 5039 Falls of Neuse Road in the Quail Corner Shopping Center, corner of Falls of Neuse and Millbrook, or give us a call here at the store, 919-836-2222. So if you like this video, please do hit the like button. It really does mean a lot to us. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, as I put out new videos every single Friday. And make sure you hit the little bell icon next to the subscribe button to make sure you're notified by email every time a new video goes live. And leave a comment down below. Let me know what photo editing software you use. Also, if you'd like me to do a similar video on video editing applications, leave a comment down below and I will make that happen for you guys. So that's going to do it for this week's video, and I'll see you all next week.